Hi everyone, this is Peaceful Mind ASMR, and this is going to be a softly spoken vlog discussion, I suppose, on the topic of being a shy individual, as well as some aspects of having social anxiety. And I tend not to I guess talk too much about myself, and if you see me smiling at all during this video, it's because when I get nervous, sometimes I will smile a lot or laugh. So if I do any of those things, that's the reason. Because it's a little bit nerve-wracking to talk about yourself, but I think this is an important topic to talk about. So, the beginning of the week, I had asked people on Facebook to ask me some questions regarding being a shy person and on social anxiety. And I wrote down everyone's questions from that post. But before I answer those specific questions, I just wanted to share sort of my story just a little bit, because I think in answering some of these questions I'll probably end up talking about some things that have happened to me personally, but just, I guess, as a little backstory. So, I have been for a very, very long time a shy individual, but I haven't always been very shy. When I was in preschool through about 5th grade, I was actually quite outgoing. I wouldn't go so far as to say I was like a class clown or anything, but I'd make some jokes in class, and I had a pretty good friend group, and I never really was self-conscious, and I was pretty outgoing. However, after my 5th grade year of school, so when I was about 11 years old, my family decided to move across the country, and which was hard for me because I had so many friends that I'd have to be leaving, and it would be a new place, and being the new kid can be very difficult. And so where we ended up moving, in my grade there were only 16 other students who had all been going to school together since kindergarten. And so they all knew each other. And there I was, the new kid. And also, I noticed that the culture of this new area and the new school was very different from where I'd been coming from. Because I was still at the state where I wanted to, play games outside during recess. And I was still into, using my imagination and just, being a kid. Yet everyone at this new school was already into dating, even in 6th grade. And I really wasn't. Just wasn't into that yet. And so being the new kid and not really fitting in, I was bullied a lot, and that really took a toll on me. And because I did try to make friends, but people, they just didn't get me, and, so I didn't fit in, and I think that affected me the most. And, that's also the stage in life where, kids go through a lot of changes, and it's a hard time already, and to be thrown into a pool of, new people with a different culture, and it was really hard for me to make any friends, and I really didn't. And then when I went to high school, luckily, my older sister is only 2 years older than me. So by the time I was a freshman in high school, she was still going there. And while I was at school, I didn't really make any friends. I basically just hung out with my sister. She was into drama and singing, and she would hang out in what we called the music department at our school. And because she would hang out there, I would hang out there. And I really don't know what I would have done if my sister was not there with me. I don't think I would have. I don't even know what would have happened, because she really helped me at least find some area in the school that I could hang out in. But after 2 years, she graduated, and I was by myself. And so, it's hard to talk about, but I didn't really make any friends, even when she left. I would be friendly with people at school. I was there, but I didn't really talk too much. Maybe a little bit here and there in my classes, but I was very quiet, and I just, I went through school without ever really having a friend group, and that was really hard for me. But I was used to it from middle school as well, just not having friends. So, I would focus in my studies instead of hanging out with friends, or I would draw a lot. That's when I was really making a lot of like comic strips and stuff. But I never really had any people I could call friends, because I was shy and I didn't know how to make friends, I guess. And then I went to college, and same thing, I just didn't make any friends because I was too shy to put myself out there. I would just stay in my room by myself, on the weekends, and I would just do homework and draw and nothing else. And I'm in my 3rd year at college, and I still don't have any friends at school. I still stay in on the weekends. I've never been to a party before. I just haven't. That's why I do a lot of drawing and so forth. I'm friendly with my roommate, but that's about it. So that's just a bit of backstory, and it took me 12 minutes. And I don't even think I did a great job of telling my story, but I think in some of these questions that people asked, I will answer or give more information about myself. So someone asked, being shy, how was school? Well, in middle school, because everyone in my grade wasn't really into playing. At recess, they all were just on their cell phones and were into dating and those types of things. I found myself either playing by myself or trying to play with kids of the younger grades who are still into playing. But, I remember coming home after school because I didn't have any friends, and just I remember crying a lot. It was definitely the beginning of a darker period of my life. I think that it was around that time where I started to feel depressed and start developing some social anxiety, I guess. And in high school it was, while my sister was still at school, it was easier because, I would just hang out with her and I could kind of hide my shyness. But when she left, it was really difficult for me because it was just hard to talk to people, and I felt very lonely. So school was definitely hard, and it was hard to not have friends, and I felt bad because, in movies you'd always see, people hanging out with their friends after school and having someone to talk to, and, go see movies and do fun things, but I never had that, and that made me really sad. And So school was hard. And, I mean, I'm still kind of in a similar situation today. So the next question. Are there any particular events or even personal revelations on your end that have especially helped you to overcome your shyness? Well, I haven't completely overcome my shyness. I think I've gotten better to a certain degree. I find it much easier now to talk to people. But again, I don't really put myself out there that much. When I'm at college, I only really hang out with my roommate once in a while, and that's it. Pretty much when I'm not in class, I'm in my room doing homework or drawing or editing videos now. I think certainly discovering the ASMR community a year ago sort of initiated a process of healing and overcoming some of my shyness. Because, I don't know, it just helped. ASMR helped me to sort of, I guess, learn how to be myself more. Because when I make videos, I pretty much just, unless I'm doing a role play, I'm being myself. And because people have been just so kind within the community and encouraging, I've learned to accept myself more. So I find that like when I'm in class at school, I'm definitely being myself more. And I do find myself, at least when I'm in class, talking to other students more. So I think that as an event, discovering the ASMR community has triggered a process of overcoming my shyness, but I'm still working on that today. Next question. If you could, would you rid yourself of your shyness, or do you think it is an intrinsic part of your personality? That's a difficult question, and I'd have to say yes and no to ridding myself of my shyness. I say yes because, obviously it would be nice to be more outgoing so that I could make friends and I could go to parties and I could hang out with people outside of class and have the courage to do that. That's something I've always wanted for myself, but my social anxiety gets in the way and I just don't even try really to hang out with people. So for that reason, yes, I would love to rid myself of it. And I say no because I feel like if I hadn't been shy, if, I wasn't by myself so much, forced to come up with ways to, pass time or whatever, maybe I wouldn't have picked up drawing. Maybe I wouldn't have discovered the ASMR community, and I wouldn't give those things up. So it's kind of difficult to, make a firm yes or no decision. But, so, and in terms of it being sort of intrinsic or not, as I mentioned towards the beginning of this vlog, I didn't used to be shy. In elementary school I was outgoing, so it was something I picked up in middle school, being in a new place and having people just kind of being mean, and, it made me very shy and insecure. So, but I'm sure there's some people who, for all time have been shy. So I think it just depends on the person. The next question. How to make you or a shy person feel more secure when being introduced to people you have never met before. So this is basically saying for people who aren't shy, I guess, who are going to meet shy people, like how they should be, or are there ways or things that they can do to help shy people not feel so shy when they're meeting, I think. I think just, just being aware of yourself and knowing that, if you're meeting someone who is very shy, just to, take it slowly when you're meeting them. Maybe give them enough personal space, maybe, and, I find that if I'm having a conversation with someone, I'm more of a listener than, coming up with the things to say. So if that person, a shy person, isn't speaking a lot, if they're more just like listening, and I think just be understanding of that, and don't make it weird for them or make them feel bad if they're not speaking a lot. And if you are the more outgoing person, maybe just do more of the talking. But other than that, I don't really know. But that's a good question, though. The next question: how do you recharge after having to interact with too many people? So for me, I go to a college where there's a lot of people. It's pretty big, and I especially find after going to meals and stuff where there's just so many people in the dining hall, and it's really overwhelming. I like to just go back to my room and either listen to ASMR videos, which I do pretty much every day, or draw because I feel like when I draw, everything just kind of fades away. Any anxiety that I had been feeling just melts away. And I also really like to listen to music a lot. Pretty much I'm always listening to music. I always have my iPhone on me and my earbuds in my ears, especially when I'm out in public, because when I listen to music and I'm out in public, it makes me feel safer, I guess, or just I feel like I can, I guess, forget that there's so many people around me. It's kind of a security thing, in a way, just always listening to music. But definitely I like to recharge by watching ASMR videos, or drawing, or listening to music, like I said. What advice would you offer others who want to overcome their shyness? And do you have certain tools that you use to help, like a daily mantra or routine? Well, I'm probably not the best person to give advice because I'm still very shy and I don't do a very good job of being outgoing. But I think just not thinking about it too much. Just don't think about all the people, and don't just try not to think too much. Just, go out and, be yourself, first of all. I'm slowly getting to that point where I can be myself more in front of people. But for me, just trying not to think about how shy I get around a lot of people. And I mean, I try not to think too much, but sometimes my mind just, does anyway, even if I try to stop it. Like, for example, when the teacher, professor is taking roll in class, so, calling out everyone's names. While they're doing that, while I'm anticipating my name being called, I always feel myself starting to, think about how I'm gonna answer, which is silly. But I start getting very anxious. And, I always tell myself, oh, just don't think about it. But, my brain starts automatically overthinking everything. But, and also I think it's important that if you know that you're a shy person, or if you have social anxiety, just take everything slowly. So, if you can only handle, being in public and around people for a certain amount of time, well, that's fine. Just go out for a little bit. And then if you need to take a break and be by yourself, then do it. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I certainly do that. I'll go out to go to a class, and then I'll immediately just go back to my room, listen to music, recharge, and then, I'll go out again and just keep doing that. So I don't think there's anything wrong with taking breaks and just taking things slowly. But, like I said, I'm not the best person to give advice because, I haven't I haven't gotten rid of my shyness. But just try not to think about it too much. Taking breaks, taking things slowly. And so that's kind of what I do. Trying to just start the day. Just try not to anticipate that you're going to start feeling anxious or anything like that. Just try not to think about it, I guess. But that's really hard to do sometimes. So, okay. How are you able to cope with college? Well, I guess I've talked about it a little bit already, but personally, what's weird is oftentimes I find myself being more vocal and a little bit more outgoing, like when I'm actually in class, because I do participate a lot. I'm one of those people who raises their hands a lot, but that's like the one time when I'm not very shy, just participating in class, in my classes, and answering questions, which is kind of strange, but that's like the one time I find that I'm not very shy. But it is hard not having a group of friends to do things, on the weekends with. I do hang out with my roommate, and I'm grateful for that. But that's about it, and, so it's difficult, and also because I do experience social anxiety, and since it is a bigger college, there's a lot of students, a lot of people. That can be a bit overwhelming at times. So that's why I really, stay in my dorm room a lot, and I draw, and I listen to music, and, I do things by myself, because I do think that I am introvert too. So, I do really appreciate alone time. I've always been one of those people, so it's not completely that, or it's not so much that I actually want to hang out with friends a lot, but because I also like to be by myself. I do talk to people sometimes in my classes, but I do wish sometimes that I had friends who I could go and do things with. So college can be difficult in that regard, and I also get anxious a lot because I'm required sometimes to go to networking events and meet a lot of people, and that's definitely a challenge for me. But I've found the more I put myself out there, the more I do the networking events, it gets a little bit easier. So just putting yourself out there more, forcing yourself to go out and meet people, I guess, can help. I should probably do it more than I do, but I think that can be a useful tool for some people. Next question. Do you think shyness comes from early experiences, or do you think it is linked more to someone's personality? I kind of mentioned this, there was a similar question before, but, I think it's different for everyone. Me personally, I think my moving from where I had been living, forever, and moving to a place where, people weren't accepting of me and, bullied me and such. I think, I became shy out of those experiences because, when I was growing up, I was, was outgoing, so for me personally, I think it was those experiences that influenced how, I became, and I still am, to a certain degree, shy, have social anxiety. But I definitely think some people, it's just innate, it's who they are, it's part of them, but that's not to say that they can't change and grow out of being shy either, so, but I don't really know. Was there a memory you can point to that may have contributed to your own shyness? So definitely moving to a place where I didn't know anybody, and then having those people just not really be welcoming. I lost all of my self-esteem completely. So through that, I think my shyness was born, and it stuck with me till now. So I think a lot of it comes from that occurrence. It's interesting. My mom was telling me how someone had suggested that, or had said that in middle school we don't really learn too much. That can be, debated in terms of schooling. It's kind of an awkward time, and, everyone's going or starting puberty, and everyone's kind of, it's just an awkward time for a lot of people. So one parent had suggested that for middle school, suggested taking, your kids out of school and go travel the world for those years until high school. Have them, see the world or experience new things. Because, a lot of people, that's a hard time for them, middle school. So, she suggested, taking your kids out of school for that time and, traveling or, doing that instead of having them be in school and get bullied or whatever. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Next question. How has ASMR and the community helped you? Well, when I first discovered ASMR last year, the videos helped me because, I was feeling very lonely, and, just kind of down and sad a lot. And just watching the videos really helped me cope with that. You know, it didn't cure anything, but it just made me feel better. And then, I'm still surprised that I made a channel, because I feel like, making videos and putting them out on the internet, like, for a shy person to do that. I'm just surprised that I did, but I'm glad I did. Because through making the videos over this past year, I've learned, or it's helped me to be myself more. It's helped me to speak more, I guess. And it's given me some confidence, a little bit, I guess, in some regard. So it's, it forced me, or it put me outside of my comfort zone. And so I think that it helped me to, it was a challenge, and, I was able to overcome it, and just learn to put myself out there more a little bit, at least on the internet. And also, in the ASMR community, people have just been so kind and welcoming, and that gave me a lot of hope and encouragement. And although I was still shy, and I still am to some degree, it just helped. I don't know, it was just helpful, I guess, that people are being so nice. And they still are. And just, to feel like I was a part of a community just helped me tremendously, because I didn't feel so alone anymore. And, I think several months ago I got a Facebook, and been able to chat with some people on there, and that's been really helpful too, for not being as shy as well. So, and I'm probably not listing all the reasons, but for many reasons, the ASMR community has helped me to overcome some of my shyness, for sure. And the last question that I got was, does it feel like you are alone in a room full of people? It depends on the situation that I'm in, or just how I'm feeling that day, because I've felt that way, even being in class, because some of my classes have had over 100 people in them. I feel out of place, like I don't fit, like I don't belong, and I feel very isolated sometimes. Definitely when I go to the dining hall at my school, there's so many people, and I feel very isolated, it's just how I feel sometimes. But sometimes I don't feel that way. It just depends on the day, how I'm feeling. But I've certainly felt that way before. But although I don't do a perfect job of it, and I should do it more, what people say a lot is that when you're shy, you should just put yourself out there and just try to make friends. And, I agree with that. a degree. Because the more you do something, the easier it will be. For sure. But I don't think having a ton of friends is right for everyone. For some people, maybe just having a couple close friends is perfect. And, like I said, I'm introvert, so I really value also having alone time as well. So I think it's about finding that balance for yourself personally. That's important. But, that can be easier said than done. And I'm proof of that because I don't. I really don't put myself out there that much. Because I just don't know how to make friends. I guess that's partially it. Because I haven't really had friends since elementary school. I don't know how to just go up to somebody and start talking or whatever it is you do to make friends. But I think it's also important to know that you're not alone. There's plenty of people who are shy. There's plenty of people who experience social anxiety. So there's always people in the same boat as you are. And I think, keeping that in mind helps too. Because, it's a common thing, I think. A lot of people are shy. And, I hope that one day I can completely outgrow it. But only time will tell. But certainly the ASMR community has helped me tremendously, and I'm sure it still will continue to help me overcome my shyness. So this has been my sort of vlog ramble on the topic of being a shy individual. And I probably could have touched upon some other things or given more advice, but I just haven't experienced enough to know really what to say. I can only speak from what I have experienced up till now. But I hope that one day I will be more confident and will be able to make friends. I certainly have made some friends online in the ASMR community, and that has been wonderful. But anyway, I want to thank everyone who asked questions on Facebook, and I hope you're all doing well. And as always, I hope that you have a very, very peaceful mind.